Meeting is being recorded.
Thank you so much. I am going to give a quick introduction. To welcome everyone, but before I go into that, thank you so much for being with us today. The first artist who is going to share today is Marina Forbes. And because of an engagement that she has soon following this, we're going to jump start and get right into Marina's presentation. And then I'll give a little more context for our event today after Marina and cue up our other artists.
Fabulous. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being so flexible and accommodating all the needs. My name is Marina Forbes. And I just put information in chat about my name and my website and all the contact information. And I do programs on arts, history, and culture. And for 25 years, I've been doing my cultural tours to Eastern Europe. In my some of the last tours had descendants of Tchaikovsky family, like Nutcracker, Swan Lake, 1812 Overture. All three of them, they live in New Hampshire. We had a fabulous time here in Ukraine. It was all 10 years ago. And right now I'm gonna start sharing the screen. And one of my programs is, it's on Fabergé Imperial Easter eggs. It's all about arts, history, culture, crafts, arts, and technology. And all my programs, they include interactive, beautifully illustrated presentations and then hands-on activities. And I have only 5 minutes. Normally interactive is, what do you see on the screen? What do you see the name of this egg? What do you see that makes you say that? So all the eggs, they have kind of wonderful surprise, and I'm supposed to have kind of like sign. How would I go to a different piece of art? Okay, and I saw that I can go easily to a different one. So that's why everything has a little surprise. I'm sure that there's way to move from one to the other. I just kind of feel like I don't know how to do that now. Okay, so if we're talking about Fabergé eggs, to put it kind of in simplest perspective, is $500,000 of art supply and then $30 million of craftsmanship. And talking about Fabergé eggs, 19 of these eggs are in major American museums, and one of the missing eggs, 7 eggs are still missing, was found in American yard sale and sold a couple of years ago to British Museum in London for $30 million. So it kind of gives a different perspective while shopping on yard sale. And technology, look at this. This egg is made with enamel. What is enamel? And normally I ask people like to tell me what enamel is, and kids would say, our teeth have enamel. Yes, and since time immemorial, all the pharaohs was trying to imitate enamel. And right now I'm showing you this beautiful green translucent enamel placed on platinum. And it takes a temperature kill of 600 degrees centigrade, which is nice and easy, compared to 1,112 degrees Fahrenheit. And you have to put the item in kiln 5 or 6 times in order to get this gorgeous color, and you don't want to melt anything else. So, and thinking about technology, normally people tell me what they see, and they see a train. It's a surprise. And can we see a key? If you can use that key, this train can actually work realistically. And we can talk about American history, and people can use their prior knowledge, all this concept of using trains to connect one ocean to the other. And here is an egg, and train is 15 inches, and the whole egg it's 12 inches. And Fabergé used unconventional material, like here, when he used a map of Trans-Siberian Railroad, he used stainless steel. And if we just look at this wonderful technology used there, and hop, and we can see how marvelously everything is arranged together. And so that's why my program on Fabergé Imperial Easter eggs, it's kind of like 60, 90 minutes interactive presentation and then hands-on experience. And next step is what Fabergé eggs have to do in common with nested dolls. And normally I would ask for a question, but the answer is it's 1900 World Trade Fair in Paris. And actually Eiffel Tower was built for one of those trade fairs. And actually, for the sake of curiosity, Fabergé eggs and nested dolls were presented there and got fabulous reviews. And actually, engineer Eiffel was hired and commissioned to create the first bridge in St. Petersburg. So let's this is a wonderful program on nested dolls. And we can have, it's my second concept for residency. And we can have a quick trip to the middle of Siberia, see how dolls are made from cutting the trees to actually painting the dolls. And I just want to show here how wonderful the whole concept of using the brush efficiently. So the brush will paint by itself. It happens all the time. And look at this, how my friend is using a doll. Brush stays nice and tall. We'll learn how to do that using syringe. And at the end, we can see this kind of wonderful doll. And people kind of in my class can normally work individually, or it can be set of 5. And then we can auction off our best art. We can donate it to the hospital for children fighting cancer. Lots of things can be done. And then we can talk about contemporary art. And then I have some fabulous examples of.
Marina, are you able to enlarge any of the images?
I can't even able to move them for
Okay.
some reason. So that's why also I have fabulous collections in my computer. And so that's why I have traditional art, I have contemporary art. And not everybody knows that 38 world famous fashion designers were invited to decorate nesting dolls. And the whole thing raised $17 million to help children fight with cancer. And they were like Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, Versace, Stella McCartney. Can you see in this contemporary art? And let's look at Dior. And then if we just know everything about nested dolls, what to do with them? Hop. And we can see about, can you see the human beings there? And the world of nested dolls, can you see proportions? Anybody?
Yes.
Marvelous, perfect. And you can see nested dolls on slope of kind of the mountains. So to recap, what I'm proposing is I can come to school and do a interactive, beautifully illustrated program on Fabergé Imperial Easter eggs or nested dolls from tradition to contemporary art. And this program will be sponsored by New Hampshire Humanities. Or I can come and do my interactive programs plus hands-on painting experiences. I love to work with teachers. I can also work with a core group of very talented people. I can work with any students, and I've been doing that for 25 years. And thank you so much. And I'm leaving right now, and you've been wonderful. I didn't hear anybody, I didn't say anything. You see my information, and please let me know what your thoughts are. And thank you so much again, and have a fabulous program. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Marina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for Marina for just jumping right in, as I know she has a workshop that she has to run to. So we appreciate, as one of our seasoned roster artists, that she was able to join and share with you all. And I will also be sharing contact information and sites for all of our artists with you following with the recording, so that if you have questions, you can reach out. So before we move on to our next artist, I just want to give a quick little more context and just thank you again for being here. Again, I'm Allison Hawkins. I'm our Arts Education Grants Coordinator, and we wanted to open up this space, this event, so that you could engage with a group of our teaching artists that are on our arts education roster, juried onto our roster for the Arts Council. And again, we wanted to foster these introductions and this exposure for our arts education grant programs that are open right now. Our Artists in Residence grant is available to public schools and the deadline is April 21st. And our Youth Arts Projects grant, which is open to nonprofits, so can be for private and parochial schools who are nonprofits and other nonprofit organizations and agencies. That deadline has been extended to Friday, April 14th. We want you to keep these programs in mind, but these introductions to these artists could be for other opportunities down the road with your classes or potentially for other grant opportunities that you have access to. This is really kind of like a Pecha Kucha style event where it's just quick sharing from the artists to, and they may be artists that you've worked with before or are new to you. Some of the artists joining us have been on the roster for many years and others have just joined recently. So we're just really excited to create these introductions. I know historically these connections were made at our Arts Education Conference and that will continue, but wanted to give other platforms and opportunities to engage with these communities. So we have 6 more artists sharing this evening. Gemma Soldati, Danielle Festa, Simon Brooks, Jeff Warner, Teresa Taylor, and Merrick Bennett. So we will jump in soon. Teachers, feel free to share in the chat if you would like your name, in addition to your name, your school, grade, and subject matter. And if it's okay with you, we can also share your contact, the attendees joining tonight with our artists who are presenting today. We'll have questions at the end. That sounds good. Although artists, let us know for anyone who has to jump off early, if you want to open it up to questions, a couple questions, that's fine too. We'll be dropping some links in the chat that are helpful throughout, such as links to the grant programs, Creative Ground, information on the artists. And again, I'm going to be following up by email with the recording, the contact info for these artists, and then we're going to spotlight some other artists too from our roster and a follow-up email. So grateful for you all to be being with us this evening, and I'm going to jump right over and open the floor up to Gemma Soldati.
So, can you all hear me? Good.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Gemma Soldati. I am a theater artist based on the Seacoast. My primary focus is in what we would call clown, although it's not the clown that you're thinking of. It's not a scary circus clown. It's more a theater-based clown, or if it helps to synthesize it even more, you can just think of it as a master of play. And that is my focus. And I would love to share a little video because I think as a performing artist, better to just see the work that I do. So let me just see. Hold on. So, like I said, I'm based on the Seacoast. I've trained extensively in Los Angeles, in France, as well as New York and Toronto, etc. My focus right now for my own work is theater-based shows, solo shows. Some of you may be familiar with this show. I've toured it here to New Hampshire, internationally as well. I'll just show you this. Let me know if you can't hear the sound.
It's me, Sleepyhead. What's that, little grandbaby? What's that? Oh, she doesn't talk. She's a baby. I saw my dad do it. So I know I can do it. I said, Bobby, I said,
I'll bet the Sandman has seen your dreams.
Okay, Pillowhead.
It's Sleepyhead. Good night. Don't let the bed bugs.
So that's a little of my personal work as a performer. As a teacher, like I said, my focus is really in clown and also the sort of periphery experiences of building a world, whether it's making props, making costumes, making set pieces. And as I've developed my practice as a teacher, working with both young children, teenagers, underserved communities, adults, pardon me, I'm right in the heart of Concord at the moment. You know, a lot of what really we're doing in a clown class is talking about play, talking about presence. It's a lot of game playing, you know, it's a lot of skills. It provides a lot of skills such as, you know, making eye contact, being seen, dealing with failure, improvisation. So there's really the sort of range of experiences and ways to sort of shape and use this work. In my experience, is sort of endless. And personally, I'm very interested in, aside from teaching clown across the state and sharing my various characters or shows at schools, I'm also interested in collaborating with teachers on how to develop curriculum that is play-based learning. So using my understanding of play and clown to infuse other things, whether it's math or history or language art, you know, in the same way we all remember Schoolhouse Rock, things that are learned through play and with play really stay with us much longer and in much deeper and more meaningful ways. So you can think of me as a master of play, and thank you for your time. I'll leave my information. I can't stay all day. I also have to go teach. I'm the artist in residence here at Kimball Jenkins currently, but I know Allison will give you my information. I would love to chat with anyone who has questions or wants to work together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gemma. That was wonderful. Yeah, Gemma is leading an amazing workshop at Kimball Jenkins that's starting this evening. Thank you so much. Okay, and I'm starting to drop in the chat websites for the artists, and then Emily and I will continue to populate it with the grant information as we go along. All right, I didn't mention earlier, I want to keep this event to about an hour with an eye on everyone's time. So I want to keep clipping along, and I would like to pass the baton now to Danielle Festa.
Hey everyone, good to see you all virtually. I am an artist in Dover, New Hampshire, and I also have recently become the executive director of a nonprofit. And some of the things I think would be good to speak to about students is how being an artist isn't one road and that you can wear a lot of hats. I also have a gallery here in Dover, New Hampshire. So I am a gallery director, an artist, and an executive director. In addition to that, I actually do graphic design and web design. So if you wanted to really make the list full, I think that it's nice to be able to communicate with, especially kids as they're growing up, to show them what it's like to be a real working artist. A lot of times they're shown how to do things, but not really what it looks like in a career form, because all of our careers are so different. So part of what I'm doing now as a nonprofit too is I think that art, it's better if it's more approachable, if more people can be involved, and it has healing qualities. And I was part of the embodied healing workshop with Allison. Right, that was the first thing I did after COVID. It was like seeing other people, just being able to connect with people who are all from different backgrounds. They're not necessarily trained artists. I think opening it up to people to be able to experience enjoying seeing art, enjoying making art, and kind of taking the label off of I'm an artist. We all don't have to fit in a box. So I'm going to share my screen and show you guys a little video about my project. So it's called the Aplomb Project, and I've been painting trauma survivors, and it started really personally. What you can see me painting here is my cousin, and she came to me also during COVID with some upsetting news that she had disassociated for a long time and that there was family abuse. So this was my way of kind of coping with that information. I was like, do you mind if I paint what I see, which is the strength growing in you as you tell me something really hard. And the portrait became something that was really significant for her to be able to see herself as a strong person. And as I started to do it, I started to hear from more people who have been through trauma who liked the idea of being able to see themselves that way. So here's a little video of a recap. And my first exhibition was last June with this project, and it's going to be annual now. And this is kind of, well, I'll just show you. There we go. So yeah, you can see that there's a lot that go into these paintings. They're realistic, but I also use textile. Many of the subjects that you see there have actually joined my board so that I can continue doing this. And so when I do, the other thing I do in my gallery is I teach workshops, and I teach classes, and we're going to make it more affordable for people who want to do workshops with me that can't necessarily afford it. So that's kind of the full scope of where I am at. And I've also built out an online community where I have the survivor subjects and artists that I know, creatives that I know that want to connect on a mindful level, on a just, you don't have to have any experience in art, but let's do some bilateral drawing with two hands and just make some movements. And it's amazing how quickly, even over Zoom, people relax and connect. And that's been really amazing for me. And I couldn't have anticipated it, but I'm just writing that, and I'm really excited to, hear about other artists here in New Hampshire and to share different ways we can inspire each other. Did you want me to say
Thank you,
anything else,
Danielle.
Allison?
I was switching to gallery view. Sorry, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your really diverse array of all the work that you do within your career. And I was lucky enough to get to go to Danielle's exhibition this past summer and see the gorgeous paintings in person. So thanks so much for being here today. And Danielle is one of our newer roster artists. So as is Gemma. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And Danielle, did you have to leave a little early, or are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll stay on as long as I can.
Okay. So if
Glad you're
anyone-
recording it.
Yeah, exactly. With an eye on the time, we will keep moving. But if anyone with the fact that Danielle has to leave a little bit early, if anyone has questions, feel free to put those in the chat. Okay, I would like to pass it on now to Simon Brooks. Thank you, Simon.
You could have told me that you're going to pop me up before popping me up. So my name is Simon Brooks, and you probably guessed already that I'm British. I've been living in the States for a very long time, almost 30 years now. And I'm a writer, and I'm a humorist, and I'm a storyteller. What I mostly do tell are folk and fairy tales, myths and legends. Although I do tell personal narrative stories, kind of like the Moth type of stuff, except appropriate for children. And I use that as an icebreaker so that the kids see me sharing something with them. And then when we get to hear their stories, they feel more comfortable sharing with the whole group. And I usually share stories that are kind of funny or silly or somewhat dramatic to a young person. The thing that I love about storytelling, teaching storytelling to kids is that, and it's probably the same with most art disciplines, but this is the one that I work in, so this is the one that I know about, is that it really makes a difference to the students. You know, when I normally go into a school, or often when I go into a school, they'll be like, look out for that kid over there, they're trouble. And this one's going to be really quiet. And what I find is the ones that actually latch on and get fully engaged. What I found is that the kids that aren't ever listened to, the kids that are just like, you know, do this, do that, don't go here, don't go there, those kids, they find that they're being actively listened to for the very first time sometimes. I've also found that those young people who are often called wallflowers suddenly take over in a room, in a good way, in a positive way. And storytelling is a really good way to focus those kids and have them channel that energy in a positive manner. A lot of the stuff that I do ties in very tightly with the language arts and also with social studies. I do teach through myths with both the Ramayana, which is the great Indian epic, and I worked with people from India to make sure that I was A, pronouncing the names correctly, and B, making sure that I'm not colonializing it in any kind of way as a British person. And Britain has quite a history with India, as we probably all know. And also Gilgamesh. When I first came across Gilgamesh, I wasn't that fond of it, but then I saw my kids, who are now, my daughter's in high school and she's about to be done with that. And my son's 23 and is already done with that and college. When they were studying ancient civilizations in 6th grade, I really didn't like what they were reading. It was like a Disney-fied, sanitized, not very good version of it. And so I sat down with 2 of the social studies teachers locally, and we came up with an authentic version that is appropriate for 6th grade. It's right on the edge, but it's appropriate for 6th grade kids and up. And one of the things that I've actually done before is I was hired into a school in Henniker where they actually had a dancer from India, Jasmine Shah, and she taught the kids traditional dancing, and the 2 of us told tales that kind of matched. So I told her what I was going to be teaching, and she brought on dances that related to that story, or that part of the story, because the Ramayana is a huge tale. I see there's a question, have I ever worked with filmmaking classes? No, but I used to be a professional photographer a very long time ago. So I know how to do lighting. And I also do a lot of streaming workshops and classes and presentations just through the interwebs, as it were. A lot of the stuff that I do with kids is fun-based. We do a lot of play. What we do is we show kids how to edit, or what I show is how kids can edit their work, but they don't realize that they're editing it until we get to the very end of the workshop through all of these exercises, which are mostly play exercises. And what happens is a kid shared their story at the very beginning, and then the same kids will share their story at the end, and other kids are sharing their stories all the way through. And then we can actually see this is not really a story, this is just a list of facts. And then at the end, they're like, this is a really good story. And when we look back, it's like, this is how you edit work. And kids don't like to edit, as we all know. And so being able to show them how to edit in a fun way, it translated directly from storytelling into the written work. And so those are the kinds of things that I do. And I do it a lot, and I'd like to do it a lot more. And I also would like to be working with some of the other artists that I've already seen here. So that's another thing to think about.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and that's a great point. It's a nice opportunity for the artists that are here today together to make these connections as well.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and next we have musician Jeff Warner to perform for you all.
I was a kid, this is what I did just to pass the time away. I'd look all around till I found a doodle hole, and I'd say, doodle doodle doodle, bug bug bug, doodle doodle doodle, bug bug bug, doodle bug, come out and look all around, doodle back in the ground. That's your part. So I say doodle doodle doodle, and you've got to say bug bug bug. Don't fail me. Doodle doodle doodle, bug bug bug, doodle doodle doodle, bug bug bug, doodle bug, come out and look all around, doodle back in the ground. When I was a kid, this is what I did just to pass the time away. I'd look all around till I found a doodle hole, then I'd say, doodle doodle doodle, bug bug bug, doodle doodle doodle, bug bug bug, doodle bug, come out and look all around, doodle back in the ground. Well, that's an old-time Georgia song, but first recorded in the 1920s, but it goes back into the 19th century and before. A Southern song from the midsection of the state, played on a banjo, which now, of course, is the darling of bluegrass, but actually is an African instrument that started with the importation of slaves back in the 1600s. There were something like 3 million people displaced and put into this country, and they had their own cultures. And the melding of their cultures took a West African instrument, several West African instruments, and merged it into the banjo. Quite a history. I'm Jeff Warner, and I love old songs. I like to, what I call, teach American culture and history through the old songs, coming from the voices of people who were immigrants to this country or who grew up in this country in the 19th, 18th century. The songs that they passed on were the culture of America. Up till about 120 years ago, of course, if you ever heard music, it was played by somebody in the same room as you. And nowadays we have music wherever we go all the time. So to stop and listen to the songs that people considered important enough to pass on in oral tradition is extremely important. My parents, Ann and Frank Warner, were kind of pioneers in collecting traditional music, songs from people in the rural eastern part of America. And I do several programs for New Hampshire Humanities, including one based upon this woman who was named Mrs. Fish, lived in the from 1880 until 1950, essentially. And she was from Jaffrey, New Hampshire. And this picture was her taken in the 1940s in Jaffrey. She gave over 100 songs in oral tradition to my parents in 2 long weekends. Another picture that I always like to show is this one. This is a man named John Galusha, an Irish name, who lived in the Adirondack Mountains near Blue Mountain Lake, if you know that area. And this is a picture of him with his dog Flash, taken way back when, with me when I was 3 years old. And I like to tell the kids that here I am sitting next to a man who was born before Abraham Lincoln was president. And now I go back and listen to his songs and his styles that he preserved from the logging camps that he worked in the Adirondack Mountains. I love singing songs that I learned from kids. I mean, I do all these old ballads and these old early country music songs and all, but the songs I learned from kids come out of oral tradition. And in fact, it may be that kids have the strongest oral tradition going on right now, teaching each other's games and songs. One that kids taught me was, if all of the raindrops were lemon drops and gumdrops, oh, what a rain it would be. We would stand outside with our mouths open wide going, ah, 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 ah. If all of the raindrops were lemon drops and gumdrops, oh, what a rain it would be. With lots of verses. But what endeared this to me forever was a girl from a Girl Scout camp in Southern California once sang to me, if all of the flies was great looking guys, whoa, what a camp this would be. We would stand outside with our arms open wide going, if all of the flies was great looking guys, whoa, what a camp this would be. I said, I'll have that, thank you. One of the things I like to do is look for instruments that might have been played by kids in the olden days that didn't cost a lot of money. And one of the first ones I came up with was the bones, which is what these are. These are just two pieces of cow leg bone, and you hold one tight and one loose, and you can turn your hands over to make interesting clicks. I'll show you that sometime later. Perhaps the most interesting of them all was just two everyday spoons, because you can take spoons and tap them against your leg like that, play up and down, get syncopated beats, and then vary the rhythm. Raccoon got a bushy tail, and the possum tail it's bare, and the rabbit ain't got no tail at all, except a little bunch of hair. I took my gal to the barbecue, and this is all she'd eat: a pound and a half of Brunswick stew, and a side and a half of meat. And it doesn't cost you anything. That's the great thing about it. One of the things that's most dear to me is this old-time fretless banjo. Has no frets, so you have to figure out where to put your strings. It was made for me by a mountain man in Western North Carolina. He died the year I was a senior in college, and I'm so grateful that he had the chance to make this for me. His name was Frank Prophet, and he gave the world the song Tom Dooley, if you're familiar with that old murder ballad that was a hit from the Kingston Trio back in the 50s and 60s. It's got a truly lovely old-time sound. Well, you ought to see my Cindy, come from way down south. She's so sweet, the honeybees fly around her mouth. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday. And seafaring, since we're from a seafaring state, I've founded the Portsmouth Maritime Folk Festival about 25 years ago. And every year at the end of September, we bring in people from all over the world, really, to sing songs that come from the maritime traditions. TikTok had a big hit with a song called The Wellerman, which was out of New Zealand in the 19th century. There's soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. If you heard that. But there are millions of those real work songs like, I thought I heard the old man say, John Kanaka-Naka-Turaye. Today is a holiday. John Kanaka-Naka-Turaye. Turaye, oh Turaye. John Kanaka-Naka-Turaye. Kanaka is a Hawaiian word for Hawaiian, and it was picked up by the whalers back in the 19th century, who went to the Arctic to look for whales and then had to offload the oil for the States in Hawaii before going back to the Arctic climes to fish some more. So they picked up a lot of songs and lore. And this they used to pull on lines to raise the sails. And all you have to say is John Kanaka-Naka-Turaye. We'll work tomorrow, but no work today. John Kanaka-Naka-Turaye. Work all day and work for pay. John Kanaka-Naka-Turaye. So you get the idea. American history and culture through the old songs out of the mouths of the people who passed it on to the other generations. JeffWarner.com. I'd be happy to talk to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jeff. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with all of us. Okay. Moving on, next we have a potter and ceramic artist, Teresa Taylor. And I'm going to, hey, Teresa, I'm going to share, bear with me, everyone. I'm going to share my screen to share Teresa's images, and Emily put that into a lovely PowerPoint for you. And
Thank you.
bear with me one second. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Teresa Taylor, and I have a business called Salty Dog Pottery. I live in the Lakes region and Barnstead, and I've been doing residencies for close to 30 years. I originally started out in schools making pots, pinch pots, coil pots, slab pots, and mask making, which was a favorite project, but it has now moved on to a lot of tile installations that get installed in the schools that I've been working in. And these are some tiles. I worked in the 2 Hopkinton schools last fall, both schools, and one school is K through 3rd grade, and the other school was 4th through 5th. And what you're seeing were the raw, just made, just formed, just textured clay tiles that have yet to dry and be fired in the kiln. And I think I worked with about 450 students through the fall. And in these 2x2 tiles end up being the tiles that will frame the larger tiles, which can be 4 inches square or 6x6. And here you'll see, okay, so with the younger school, K through 3rd grade, the theme that was chosen was the seasons. And we're looking at spring, I believe here. Yes, it's titled that way. And what happens in the beginning is that the images are brainstormed oftentimes with the art teacher, and then a drawing is created that is on a piece of paper that's the same size as what that tile will be. So they all already have a sense of scale, and they already know how their image will fit or take up the majority of that tile. So when it comes time for them to make their tile, they can then use that drawing to trace onto other pieces of clay that they've rolled out into flat slabs of clay, and then cut the sections of whatever their image is. Oops.
Sorry about that.
And cut the sections of their image. We'll go back to those images and if you want, you can move to, there must be more seasons tiles because we did all 4.
Bear with me one second. It's just,
Okay.
I'm gonna get that to start sharing and moving forward again.
Just a word about the 2x2 tiles. They are a lot of fun to make because I have an assortment of tools that students can use that they can impress into the clay, as you can see, or they can roll, they can roll coils, they can add extra pieces of clay to make them a little bit more 3-dimensional. And they work well as a frame. And these tiles then get mounted on some panels, some wooden panels, and then get installed in a permanent place on a wall in the school. Although, should they have to expand the school or move the wall, they can be lifted off because we use the French cleat system. And the surface, rather than using glazes, because these pieces aren't functional in the sense that, what we're looking at right now, let me just say, these were the 4th through 6th graders, and they have a pollinator garden in their outside by their school. And so the theme that they wanted to work on was pollinators. So you'll see pollinators, and then you'll see those tiles being framed with the 2x2s again. And I was about to say, rather than using glazes, I use these, they use metallic acrylic paints, because what you see is what you get. And as compared to glazes, sometimes you can't always tell. Glazes aren't necessarily in the raw state the same color that they will be once they've been fired in the kiln a second time. And it's not like these are being used for functional eating out or drinking out objects. So this adds for a lot of variety and color on these tiles. And yeah, there's all of the seasons on a wall that was completely empty, that's brightened it up, and students walk by it and they have a lot of pride in their work that they made this, and they all work together to create the final installation. And there are the pollinator garden tiles. There were 6 of them. And they're above a case that I'm not sure what will be going in that case. I think the art teacher or maybe other teachers will use that to also showcase some projects that they've done in their classroom. So, oh, and this was an installation done at Barnstead Elementary School with 8th graders. I have worked with kindergarten through high school. This was done with 8th graders, and that was their legacy project for the school before they graduated. And that is my story.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience with me. Whenever I let someone in from the waiting room, it
Yeah.
it likes to stop the progression of the slideshow, but thanks everyone for your patience, and Teresa for sharing.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks for doing that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your beautiful work with us.
Oh, thank you.
And our last artist today is Merrick Bennett, I think, and Merrick has joined. If you are here, Merrick, I know Merrick had a video he shared with me.
Hello.
But you're here, yay! So you can share. Welcome, Merrick.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I'm glad I caught your presentation, Teresa. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm walking into a room where you've all been meeting. I just came from, I'm at a Dr. Crisp school in Nashua, so I ran back from class and wanted to come in and say hi.
Thank you so much, Merrick, for being able to join us at the end of our presentation or our event today, because I know you had a busy day. So the floor is yours. And if you want to share your video or anything you'd like to share, you have about 5 minutes, and then we can get up to some questions. So yeah, take it away.
Maybe I'll just, the video we could share in the chat, or it'll be on my website or something. While I'm here, I'll show you what we were doing today then. So I'm visiting Dr. Crisp Elementary School, working with 3rd and 4th graders. I'm actually there with Children's Literacy Foundation, but it's these residencies, they all kind of follow a similar program, although each one is totally unique based on the school culture and the student artists and the teachers. So I go in and I show them the kinds of work that I do. I show them how I draw graphic novel pages on full-size paper based on, in my case, letters and diaries of New Hampshire people in the Civil War, and then shrink down that work into retailable size books that people can read. And I love when their eyes light up when they see, like, oh, I can read this and I can get a story out of this, and I can get really interested in these characters and these situations. And I tell them, yeah, that's an actual letter or an actual diary that somebody wrote back in the Civil War. And here's how we can, as cartoonists, we can kind of take source material and science topics or study math word problems, anything you're studying, and bring it into this visual field. And combining text and images, we can create a story that kind of unfolds on the paper in front of us. And speaking of unfolding, the format we're using is these little 8-page booklets. It's really small. You can hold it in your hand. This is a blank one. You can't see anything on the page because this is the one I made in the last class with the 4th graders. It's 8 pages. And then the superpower of this booklet is that it unfolds into it's actually just a single sheet of paper, cunningly folded up and page numbered and drawn in. So when they finish it, this is the one I drew with some Merrimack kids last week. 3rd graders studying kindness, and mine just happens to have a really mean monster balloon who is making life kind of difficult for the denizens of this place that the setting of my comic. Then all of us, actually, it was really cool at the end of the week last week, about 200 of us each made 20 copies of our books and gave one to each of our classmates. So everybody went home with a big stack of books from their classmates. And it just shows us, you don't have to wait to grow up to become an adult to be an author. You should start doing your stories right now. And here are the tools you need and the allies you need, librarians, teachers, copy machines, to make that happen, to share your imagination with the world around you. And one of the kids, we had a bilingual class with a lot of Spanish speakers too. And one of the kids, he was pretty quiet at first, but then he realized, as we were kind of going back and forth, he realized, oh, I can do a comic about football. And he had just filled the pages with football games going on. And it was cool to see him, even though he was still learning English, he was able to dive right in and create his story in his mini comic that he'll have done by the end of the week. And another kid came up to me and he said, can I just put to be continued on page 8 now? So when I get done drawing my blank book, it'll be to be continued, because I'm doing a series. And it's like, oh, that's why we do this work, right? We bring the arts into the classroom and we give these young artists these tools, and then they're actually they're not just practicing, they're making comics. They're making the world's coolest, newest comics. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm making them along with them. Teachers are making these, I'm making them, and we'll have a couple hundred more comics in Nashua at the end of the week. And I also tell them, I've been drawing this graphic novel series for 10 years now. This literally started as an 8-page mini comic. I thought the first 6 or 7 pages of the whole series, it's now over 1,000 pages, started as an 8-page mini comic that I shared with my friends and shared with people around town. And then that kind of got me hooked. So I did another and another. And that's how my graphic novels formed too. So I like sharing that and doing that as peers with the student artists. I don't know if is that useful? Do teachers want to know anything else? Okay.
That's perfect. Cool. Thank you, Merrick.
Thank you.
Timing. Did you want to share the video? If we have,
it'll be on my site. Go check out my YouTube and follow me if you want. And I'm always posting stuff up there.
I can share that in the email to everyone because I loved watching it today.
Oh, thank you.
I also put it in the chat.
Thanks. Thanks so much for getting all the links in there in the chat. Yeah, perfect timing. Thank you so much, Merrick. And I appreciate that teachers have been adding into the chat some of their experiences with the roster artists who have joined us today. So I appreciate you teachers sharing that, and that's wonderful to hear. We have a few minutes. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute and share those, or you can put them in the chat. You can open up for a few minutes, but we're kind of right on time, which is nice because I know how busy days and evenings are. So Terry asked, what are some typical ranges of time that artists come to schools for residency? So, this is my first year administering the AIR grant program. I know it can really vary, and it's between the artist and the school to kind of set up that timeline. But if we want to talk firsthand to some of the artists here about can you share any of you kind of what your standard amounts of time have been, or if it's really varied over the years?
For me, it's been varied. I've done a lot of single day residences, but I've also done residences that have lasted 6 weeks. Those tend to be like 1 day a week. Mm-hmm. So it's like a series of 6 days spread over 6 weeks.
Yeah. For me, because of the material of clay, which has a whole process to it, you are working with it, it has to dry and it has to go through the kiln firing. And then it has to have a finish put on it, whether you're using glazes or paints. So oftentimes the process is at least, I'll be in a school over the course of a month, not every day, maybe a couple days a week, depending on how many students are involved. Or, maybe 6 weeks. I think Hopkinton was a long stretch because there were so many students and so much to fire. So it just depends.
Thanks, Teresa.
Yeah.
Did anyone else want to share before I'll jump on to a couple more questions? But that's helpful to get those examples. Okay.
Jeff had his hand up, but he didn't say anything.
I was going to say, I know in the Conval School District, K to 12, when we meet as like a PLC, we are interested in finding a great artist in residency in the future. So thank you.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Sarah. I have a couple questions in the chat just about process, about connecting with artists, the cost. Just so bear with me reading through these. Yeah, kind of planning with the artists. Thank you, Merrick, for that. Merrick, give some examples. So yes, it's between for the Artists in Residence grant program, it is required that at least one of the artists that you're engaging is on our roster. And so those artists are listed on Creative Ground. And I'm also going to be emailing a list as just like an actual list to all the schools too, because most of them are profiled there, but not all. It's we asked them to set up a profile. So there's about 65 on there right now. So the school connects with the artist and does that outreach and creates the arrangement. So there is a bit of that process where you're kind of making that agreement and then, or commitment with the artist and then applying for the grant. And in terms of cost, the grants, our maximum grant is $6,000. It's $1,000 to $6,000 is the range. But the artist's fee or honorarium really varies based on what the artist, what they charge. So you can work that out directly with the artist, but then you can come to me, come to us with any questions as you're working on that process. So I'm just reading through. Next. Okay, mentioned the grant amount. Does that answer your question, Sarah? Is this the maximum? Okay, thank you. Okay, good question. Brenda Lee, she talks about working with a lot of younger students. Are you all open to working with high school students and in addition, special education students?
Yes.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Thank you, Colleen. Yes. Sarah, we'll drop a link in again because there's been a lot in the chat. Thanks, Oh, Merrick, do you mean regarding your comment, reviewing drafts? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
that seems like a really helpful option.
Yes, thank you, Merrick, for mentioning that. At the Arts Council, we are able to review drafts. We say up to 2 weeks in advance, but you can get a draft anytime before, a little before the deadline. And we will look at that and talk that through with you if any feedback. And I will say too, at least last year was my first year doing the Youth Arts Projects grant, but after submission, there's a little bit of a time there too, where we can check back in with you to finalize details, get more information, clarify questions. So that's kind of a nice period where there's a little bit of flexibility. So we say just, you know, even if you're kind of still figuring out, get this application in, and then we can work with you, kind of do some fine tuning after that submission deadline. Okay, thanks. Thank you. It's 5:02, so I want to keep my eye on the time for your busy days, and just thank you so much for being here. We thank you, artists, for sharing, and thank you so much, teachers, for being in the space with us to connect with this group of amazing artists. And let me know. I'm going to follow up with lots of information, and let me know if you have any questions at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.